Good morning to all of you. Thanks for your patience, and we are apologizing for the delay because we got stuck with the traffic. We have our AICC General Secretary in charge of communications and the working committee member, Sir Jairam Ramesh. We have the working president of NPCC. We have the AICC Secretary in charge of Nagaland, Ranajit, the media chairman, Younger, and myself, the Northeast Media Coordinator for the AICC. So, as Sir Jairam Ramesh did the press conference yesterday, and we committed that we will take a complaint ahead with the Deputy CM's comment on the election part of it, and the Election Commission has responded to it. Now today he will be speaking on certain other subjects, and I request Jairam Ramesh sir to open the press conference here. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, friends, and let me also apologize for the delay which was caused by the heavy traffic in Kohima, and we underestimated the time taken to arrive here, so I apologize once again. Now, very soon we are going to begin the 2024 Lok Sabha election. Nagaland will be part of the first phase of the Lok Sabha election on the 19th of April. And I want to speak to you today on 5 big issues that are going to be part of these elections. These are the 5 issues that I believe make the 2024 election much more important than they would otherwise have been. First, the British ruled India for over 200 years, and they followed a policy of divide and rule. For the last 10 years, we have Mr. Narendra Modi as Prime Minister, who has followed a policy of not just divide and rule, but more importantly, bluff and rule. So we have gone from divide and rule to bluff and rule. Now, why do I say bluff and rule? In 2015, a framework agreement was signed with one group in Nagaland. Mr. Narendra Modi said that is a game changer. We don't know what the details of that framework agreement are. In 2017, another agreement is entered into with another set of groups, and we don't know what the details of that agreement are. In 2023, when the assembly elections were being held, a third set of groups came forward, and he made promises to that group. And every time he made promises, he would say, it's a game changer. It is a permanent settlement to the problems of Nagaland. We don't know the details of 2015, we don't know the details of 2017, we don't know the details of 2023. All we know is different people have been bluffed by the Prime Minister. So the first and most important issue in 2024 for the people of Nagaland and for the people of India is freedom. In 1947, we got freedom from divide and rule. In 2024, we require freedom from bluff and rule. Second issue, the entire BJP RSS agenda, ideological agenda, one nation, one election, one nation, one tax, one nation, one party, one nation, one leader, one nation, one religion, one nation, one language, one nation, one food. So the BJP RSS agenda is to destroy religious diversity of India, linguistic diversity of India, ethnic diversity of India, regional diversity of India, food and dress diversity of India. And what happened in Manipur 11 months ago was a trailer, was the beginning. For 11 months, Manipur has been burning. People have been targeted because of their religion. Places of worship have been burnt because they belong to a particular religion. Prime Minister has not spoken a word. Prime Minister has not come to Manipur. He has not met the Chief Minister of Manipur, not met MP, MLA, political parties. Because the agenda, what they started to do in Manipur, they will do in Nagaland, Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram, all parts of the Northeast, to destroy the diversity of the Northeast. So the second issue is the protection of diversity of India. Religious diversity, ethnic, linguistic, regional diversity, which is under threat because of the BJP, RSS, one nation, one religion, one nation, one language, one nation, one party, one nation, one leader policy. The third issue that is very important, which I want to repeat, which I said yesterday, in 1963, Nagaland became a full-fledged state of India. And Article 371A was introduced in the Constitution of India. This is the Constitution of India. In Article 371A, it says, no act of Parliament in respect of religious or social practices of the Nagas, 2. Naga customary law and procedure, 3. Administration of civil and criminal justice involving decisions according to Naga customary law, and most importantly, number 4, ownership and transfer of land and its resources. I repeat, ownership of land and its resources shall apply to the state of Nagaland unless the Legislative Assembly of Nagaland by a resolution so decides. Now, Modi government removed Article 370, which provided special provisions for Jammu and Kashmir. 371A provides special provisions for Nagaland. 371B for Assam. 371C for Manipur. 371F for Sikkim. 371G for Mizoram. And 371H for Arunachal Pradesh. But today I am concerned only with 371A for Nagaland. So a government that has removed 370 will remove 371A. Ownership of land and resources will go from the Nagaland Assembly to Parliament of India, which goes against Article 371A, which was introduced in 1963. So this is my third point. We have to protect 371A, particularly ownership of land and its resources. Naga customary law, Naga practice, Naga religion, Naga way of life, which is under threat. So this is the third point. Fourth point I want to say is that across the country, the biggest issue is unemployment. The highest unemployment rate we have seen in India in the last 45 years, particularly youth unemployment. The more educated you are, the greater is the chance that you are unemployed. And one unemployed educated youth commits suicide every 2 hours. This has never happened before. So the Congress party has introduced the 5 justices program: youth justice, women justice, farmer justice, worker justice, and social justice for weaker sections of society. Most important, we have to have jobs, jobs and more jobs for educated youth. Jobs in government, jobs in the private sector, jobs in manufacturing, jobs in services. But the Prime Minister will not talk about this issue. He will talk about other emotional issues, talk about religion, but he will not talk about the most important issue that exists today in India facing the youth of our country, namely record unemployment. So these are the 5 justices that we have promised. Fifth and final issue that I want to speak about today, and this has great importance in Nagaland. Democracy means having an opposition. Here, everybody has joined NDPP, and the only party that is fighting the NDPP, which is masterminded by the BJP, is the Congress party. Democracy means strengthening of judiciary. Democracy means strengthening of the media. Democracy means strengthening of civil society. Democracy does not mean silencing the voice of the people. And this is what is happening in state after state, including Nagaland. This Constitution of India guarantees freedom of speech. But what is important today in Nagaland, in Manipur, in other parts, is not just freedom of speech, but freedom after speech. You're free to speak, but what happens to you after you speak? You'll be put in jail, there'll be a case against you, National Security Act will be imposed on you. So my friends, it's not just freedom of speech. Democracy means freedom after speech, and that is under threat. So we need to save democracy. The 2024 election is a save democracy election. It is a save constitutional election, save constitution election. And that is why the Congress party has launched this 5 Justice, 25 Guarantees program. We have launched our manifesto. We are fighting the election. We have a young PCC president, active PCC president, Supang Marik Jamir. Mr. Rahul Gandhi spent 2.5 days in Nagaland. 250 kilometers we travelled during the Bharat Jodo Nyaya Yatra. Mokokchung, Tuli, Wokha. We spent 2 days and 3 nights. Basically, to send a signal that we care, that we are sensitive to the situation in Nagaland, into the Northeast in general, but in Nagaland in particular. And we believe that 2024, the people of Nagaland will once again place their confidence at the national level in the Congress party and its allies, the India group, and in Nagaland also. Our candidate, Mr. Jamir, Supang Marik Jamir, will win with a convincing majority to send a signal to Mr. Modi and his allies that enough is enough. Indians want freedom from bluff and rule. Indians want freedom after speech. Indians want jobs. Indians want justice. With these words, I will now take whatever questions that you may have, and if you do it one by one, it will facilitate my answering also in a proper manner. Thank you very much.
The last Prime Minister of Congress, Mr. Manmohan Singh,
Yes,
he was elected from Assam,
yes.
and he never visited even the neighboring state Nagaland. So why does the Congress suddenly care about Nagaland?
Mr. Dr. Manmohan Singh spent hours talking to his colleagues, spent days, spent months talking to his colleagues about bringing peace and development and harmony back in Nagaland. And what we saw in 2015, the framework agreement that Mr. Modi entered into, was the result of negotiations that had started from the mid-90s, taken forward Narasimha Rao, Deve Gowda, Gujral, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and then Dr. Manmohan Singh. So, Dr. Manmohan Singh, I know, in all the positions that he has occupied, including the Prime Minister, but before that, of course, he was the Finance Minister, he has always held the Northeast in the highest of regard and esteem. And he never did anything to disturb the social balance of the Northeast. We never had a Manipur type situation when Dr. Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister. When the Prime Minister refused to go, was unable to go, was unwilling to go to a state of the Indian Union where people are killing each other in the name of religion, in the name of ethnicity, in the name of language, in the name of their way of life. So I am afraid that the comparison is misplaced, because it was Dr. Manmohan Singh as Prime Minister who did his maximum to protect Article 371A, particularly for Nagaland. Since your question relates only to Nagaland, I am talking only of Nagaland. But what he did was equally applicable to other states of the Northeast as well.
Yeah, the Congress Constitution speaks about the final solution of the Naga population. Can you elaborate on that?
The
Final
the manifesto.
solution.
Oh, the manifesto.
Manifesto speaks
Well,
about
I explained
final
to you that somewhere in the mid-90s, the NSC and IM and the Government of India started the dialogue process when Mr. Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister. It was then taken forward by successive Prime Ministers. There were successive interlocutors at the political level. My late colleague, Mr. Oscar Fernandez, was one of the political interlocutors. Mr. R.S. Pandey was another interlocutor at a different point of time. There were different interlocutors. In 2013, an agreement was being finalized, but there were elections to be held in 2014, and the Prime Minister said this is not the time for creating a new situation. Let the elections be over and then we will take this forward. Elections got over. We did not come back to power. Mr. Narendra Modi became Prime Minister. He took forward whatever had been negotiated. They had a different interlocutor. Mr. Ravi was the interlocutor. And in 2015, the framework agreement was signed with the NSC and IM. We are not in government today. I don't have access to the papers. The Prime Minister, the government of the day, should take the nation into confidence. What was the 2013 agreement if they want to make public? What is the 2015 agreement which they have signed, which they have not made public? They have made public the introductory part, but not the details of the agreement. What were the details of the 2017 agreement with a different set of organizations? What was the 2023 agreement with another set of organizations? This time I think The last one, their discussions and negotiations were with the Eastern Nagaland NPO. So there has been a certain continuity. But all I can tell you is, as far as the Congress party is concerned, for us 371A is sacred. We will respect the letter and spirit of 371A. Any modification of 371A which weakens the provisions of 371A, particularly in respect to the ownership of land and resources, is unacceptable to the Congress party. In Nagaland, it is also unacceptable to the Congress party nationally.
I would like to repeat at the sake of repeating. My specific question is, Constitution, your manifesto speaks about final solution. What do you mean by that?
It is a permanent solution. It's a permanent solution. I think the desire for every person in Nagaland is for permanent peace. A permanent environment in which jobs are created, economic growth takes place, people's aspirations are fulfilled, religious practices are not under threat, Article 371A is not under threat. So I think what we are talking, when we use the word final, it's a permanent solution. It's not that we have a solution and then 20 years later again something starts. We had a permanent solution in Assam, the Assam Accord. We had a permanent solution in Punjab, we had the Punjab Accord. Mizoram, in 1986, we had a permanent solution through the Mizo Accord. Tripura, we had a permanent solution through the Tripura Accord. So that is what we mean. That when we have an agreement, all groups buy into that agreement. It should not be that this is an agreement between one group and the union government. It has to be a solution which all groups of Naga society accept and respect and are willing to abide by. And that is possible only when the government of India is transparent, when the government of India does not divide and rule, when the government of India does not bluff and rule, makes different promises to different groups. So I think that's the road that we have to take, and that's the road the Congress party will take when it comes to power in New Delhi. There is a lot of history. There's a lot of history to what has happened in Nagaland. But we have to open a new chapter. And that new chapter must embrace all sections of Naga society. People belonging to different tribal groups. People belonging to different regions of the state. So it has to be an all-inclusive, permanent settlement. Because the priority that the youth in Nagaland want are jobs.
Does that mean integration of all Naga inhabited areas spread across 2 nations and 4 states?
I am not the interlocutor. Okay? I am not negotiating, and when negotiations take place, we do not give ball by ball commentary during negotiations. Negotiations have to take place in an environment where there is equal respect, dignity, and total transparency. But the principles of negotiations I can tell you. First, it should be all inclusive. It should encompass all groups of Naga society. Number one. Number two, it should encompass all regions of Nagaland. Number three, it should be done in a participative, consultative manner. It cannot be done like the previous interlocutor did. Take it or leave it. That is not the way to negotiate. And when you negotiate something, you must share it with the people. Till today, we don't know what the details of the 2015 agreement are, and 2015 agreement is a signed agreement. It is signed. 2013 agreement, by the way, was not an official agreement. 2015 agreement is an official agreement signed by the Union of India and the NSC and IM. We know the broad principles, but what are the details? We don't know. 2017, we don't know. 2023, we don't know. But all we know is bluff and rule. In Manipur, they bluffed the Meiteis, they bluffed the Kukis, they bluffed the Nagas, and the situation is what you are seeing in Manipur today. So this is exactly what is happening in Nagaland. They bluffed some groups in 2015, they bluffed some groups in 2017, they bluffed some groups in 2023. This bluff and rule we have to completely eliminate.
In these so many years of the Naga political issue, Congress was in power for so many years. So now, if given the opportunity, would you restart the talks or you would directly come to conclusion? Because you have already been holding talks.
We can't directly come to. We have to talk.
So it will restart again.
I won't say restart. I mean, I'm sure there are talks going on. I don't
Can you
know.
give some assurances of how many months or
I'm
periods
sure
will
there
be
are talks going on. There is a continuity in talks. There is a certain continuity in talks. Take Mizoram. The Mizoram talks took almost 20 years.
It is more than 70 years.
Yeah, but then they were milestone achievements which were accepted by some groups and not accepted by other groups. So we have to, the Naga society, Naga settlement, the Mizo settlement was accepted by all. In Assam, the settlement, Assam Accord was accepted by all. In Tripura, it was accepted by all. Obviously, in Nagaland, there was an agreement. That agreement led to Nagaland becoming an independent, full-fledged state of India. Then Article 371A came onto the constitution. From 1963 onwards, for about 25-30 years, there was relative peace and quiet and tranquility. But then again dissatisfaction came. So we have to see, why is dissatisfaction coming? Dissatisfaction is coming, in my view, one, because of lack of jobs, because of unemployment of youth. And number two, dissatisfaction is coming because people are worried that their religion is under threat, their culture is under threat, their language is under threat, their way of life is under threat. So that is what we have to give confidence to people. I think you are asking me, you are putting a thing on myself, will you restart? No. Of course we have to talk. Democracy means talking. Democracy means negotiating. Democracy means compromising. And I don't think that the Congress party has ever said that we will not talk or we will not negotiate or we will not, try to compromise and ensure that everybody buys into the settlement. Everybody has to buy into the settlement.
In contrary to what you just said, that Congress is trying to negotiate, I think it was Nehru's who had thought that Naga issue could be settled through this, squandering our land. So how do you
My dear sir,
justify that?
it was Nehru who introduced Article 371A.
But it was Nehru.
It was
who
Nehru.
upside,
Let me just finish. It was Nehru's government when he was Prime Minister. Nagaland became a full-fledged state of the Indian Union. There were many people in Assam, in other parts of the northeast, who had a different point of view. But Nagaland was created as an independent state of the Indian Union in 1963. And Article 371A, which is the first of the special provisions under Article 371. And you know Article 371A, I am sure you have seen it. It's one of the longest articles in our constitution. It runs into 3.5 pages. It's as detailed special provision as possible, including talking about control over land, ownership of land and resources. Congress governments have been in power in Nagaland. Elections have been held in Nagaland. Governments have come, governments have gone. The current Chief Minister of Nagaland was Home Minister in a Congress regime. So the Congress party has been part of the political system of Nagaland for decades.